Welcome to episode number 22 of Bonding and Beer. My name is Rolando Nunez. I'm your host. And today's topic is water content in universal adhesives. Let's freaking go! A little bit of an update on the things that I do and I've been doing. What has Rolando been up to? Well, I bought a little food trailer, like to call it a little side hustle, where we're going to be serving smash burgers all over the state of Illinois. So I have been trying to register the darn thing. And it's not easy. It's very difficult. It's not a simple task. It's not about filling out a form. No, you have to talk to a bunch of people. You have to go around and into all these different, governmental office buildings and trying to find the right person to talk to. So it's not a simple task. However, I do have a story about that. This trailer I bought from abroad. I bought it overseas. It was shipped to my house, and it came in a crate. So I hired somebody to get it out of the crate. Okay, it is a wooden box. It's huge. It occupies all of my driveway. And this dude comes in with a screwdriver, and a nail clipper. And then when he sees the crate, the first thing he asks is, "Do you have any tools?" Like, do I look like I have tools? If I had tools, I could open my darn crate myself. But no, he's asking about tools. It's like, bro, I don't have any tools. Anyway, long story short, the man was able to open the crate. However, his nail clipper was completely demolished. But I have the food trailer now. It's fully functional, and it is parked on my driveway while I wait for the registration paperwork from the beautiful state of Illinois. Listen, remember to like this video. Remember to like this podcast. Remember to follow us on YouTube and Instagram, Bonding and Beer. Instagram at Bonding and Beer. Okay, we are in Spotify. So today we're going to be talking about water content and universal adhesives. However, water content has been an issue for a long period of time in any adhesive. And we're going to talk about the importance of water as part of the formula, but also on the importance of getting rid of that water in order to achieve a more stable bonding layer, okay? But before we get any deeper, I would like to crack this beer open. Look what we got. We got a little gift. We got a little gift over here. Now we have, hold on. Now we have our very own fridge here in our studio, and let's talk about this beer. Let's go. So this beer is called Paraguayan Ale from Paraguay, all right, from South America. It is a beer that was brought to me by one of the attendees to an event called the Bisco Experience, which we had the week of the Chicago Midwinter meeting. We usually hold this meeting every year, and we get people from all over Latin America. And we had over 35 attendees, and one of the guys was from Paraguay. And he brought me this one, so we're going to try it. And, I shout out to him. Unfortunately, I can't remember the guy's name. There's so many people. I got to meet him for the first time, and, I'm forgetful because I'm getting old. So this guy over here, it's for those of you who cannot see it, it's a beautiful can. It's got a little bit like a salmon color label, and it's got an image of what seems to be an old woman holding some sort of vase with some sort of plants growing out of them. Very psychedelic. There is a parrot on the woman's shoulder. and it looks not a vase. I'm sorry, it's like a mortar and pestle. It's very artsy. It's very artsy. The brewery is called Hurricane Brewery from Paraguay, and here in the label it says Hurricane 1885 craft beer. I don't know if that's accurate. 1885. Maybe the brewery has been around since 1885, and now they are, experimenting with craft beer. So this is a Paraguayan pale ale, okay? And the alcohol content is 4.5%, so it's not very strong. It's a pale ale. It should have a little bit of a kick to it. All right? The way they describe it is light-bodied, herbal, hoppy, and dry. So that is, when you think about pale ales, they need to be somewhat hoppy, a little bit dry, and it's got some herbs in there. So that's interesting. But for sure, hoppy and dry is part of, in my mind, of what a pale ale should feel like, and it should bring that to the table. Now, again, this is an interesting can. This is a tall boy, and I want to share with you some interesting facts about the brewery. Paraguay is not necessarily a place that is known for their craft beer. They're kind of new into this. Like if you go to Brazil, you will find a ridiculous amount of craft beer. Argentina is also, really into craft beer over there, So Colombia, the same thing. So Paraguay is, a little late to the game, but they have their artistic expression, right? The thing with Paraguay is that the climate is very like subtropical and tropical, which makes it really difficult to grow hops. In order to grow hops, you need a good hops. You need a specific climate, a little bit colder, right? Also, one thing that is interesting is that they use cassava flour, which is made out of a root, okay? A root, I believe, is called yucca. And the cassava flour, which is made to make cassava bread, this is something they use to make beer. And it's a starch. It's not necessarily only grown in Paraguay. It's grown anywhere that you have yucca root, and yucca root is all over Latin America. In Venezuela, we do exactly the same thing. I don't know if we use it for beer making, but we definitely have cassava flour, and we have cassava bread. So this is going to be interesting, right? And cassava flour is one of the main ingredients for most of the beers, including this one. So this should be fun. So let's open it up. Let's crack it open, right? Oh. And hey, Jeremy, I'm a professional. You should see. Oh, hey, not a single drop. That is a professional pour right there. You can't do this any better, okay? So it's not super clear. It is a little hazy, okay? Good foam, good head. Let's see how it smells. It smells a little yeasty. Yes, there is like floral smell, like flower. I don't want to say fruity, but it does smell definitely flowery. I don't even know if that's a word. Probably made it up.
Sip, 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 sip.
Interesting. It is dry. It is bitter. Probably more bitter than a regular pale ale, but still super interesting. And we're going to give it a review at the end of today's episode. So if you want to know what my thoughts are at the end, hang on, and stick around. And at the end, I'll give it a score, okay? So universal bonding agents, they contain water, okay? And the reason why they contain water in the formula is because universal bonding agents, same as the self-etching bonding agents like your 6th generation and your 7th generation bonding agents that are basically self-etching, whether it's a 2-bottle system or a single bottle system, they have in the formula a adhesion promoting monomer, okay? Now, the monomer is not going to do its thing on its own. It needs to react with water. And in order for the monomer to bond, you need to create a process called ionization. And that is where water comes in. You can actually you can ionize it by adding water into the system. Now, at the beginning of the game, when 7th generation adhesives became popular, only for a little bit because unfortunately they were not very good.
Sip, sip, sip.
The idea was that the adhesive was able to be, to etch the two structure in the same way that you could achieve etching patterns with phosphoric acid. In order to do that, you made it more acidic by adding more water. But by doing this, you are actually creating a more unstable product, not compatible because the pH was too low and the bond strength wasn't that good. So that was the first try to create a bonding agent in the self-etch, thought process in a single bottle. So they had a lot of water. Some of these products had 40, 50% water content. Now, your water needs to be removed from your dental adhesive before polymerization, after application, okay? In order to improve the performance of your bonding layer over time. We have seen this. If you are able to remove the water content from your adhesive layer will be more stable over time. Do we see this clinically? Well, the testing that we do here in our lab is in vitro. So we have equipment such as thermocycling equipment that will just basically take a sample that has been bonded with, let's say, universal bonding agent, and you put it in cold water and then you put it in hot water. The range is from 5 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. And then that will be one cycle. We will do that, 50,000 times, 100,000 times. And then we will break the sample and also look at the adhesive layer microscopically. And we're going to be able to see the amount of degradation, what type of degradation. We're going to be able to see the effect of that thermocycling in that adhesive layer. And water plays a huge, huge role in the stability of that adhesive layer over time. More water makes the adhesive more prone to hydrolysis. Okay, so if you have an adhesive with a high water content, after you cure it, if you don't remove all that water, what's going to happen is that water is going to be trapped on your adhesive, and over time, the water that is coming from within the dentin is going to basically be able to just hydrolyze that adhesive layer. That's what's going to happen. We've seen that in our testing. So we are very aware that water content is a big, big issue. Okay? Again, we've seen this behavior with thermocycled samples. When you do a bond strength test and you do it like immediate bond strength, where you prep the samples, you put it in deionized water, and then 24 hours later you break it, it's totally different than if you take the sample and you thermocycle it for 50,000 cycles. You do 50,000 cycles of, temperature shock in order to fatigue the adhesive layer due to the coefficient of thermal expansion. Now we're talking at, a behavior that is a little bit more relevant from a clinical perspective. It's just a way to simulate, the behavior by torturing it with temperature changes, okay? So water needs to be removed. However, you need water in the system. So adding water to the adhesive is kind of like, how do I say it? It's like a double-edged sword. okay, because you need it for bonding in order to activate your monomer, okay? You need to ionize your monomer to achieve good bond strength. Okay, your MDP, let's say, like All Bond Universal has MDP. The 3M adhesive has, Solventum adhesive has MDP. The Ivoclar adhesive has MDP. You know, there are many adhesives out there. The latest adhesive from Universal Bonding Agent from Kerr has MDP, you know?
Sip, sip.
So you need that water content in order for the adhesive to bond. However, too much water will definitely have a detrimental impact on your bond strength over time. And I learned this from Dr. Suh. And this is one of every time he talks about this, he emphasizes on this. He said one of the biggest drawbacks of the formula is the water content. And unfortunately, that's one major thing that differentiates all the different universal bonding agents. So when people talk about universal bonding agents and they try to put them all into one big category, there are major differences between the universal bonding agents. And one major difference is the water content. That is huge, huge, huge. So Dr. Suh always taught me water content is of the essence when it comes to this type of product, which is the universal bonding agent category. Okay, too much is not good. Too little is not good either. You need to find a balance and an equilibrium. You need to find the sweet spot of water in your formula. So you need to really balance the amount of water, the amount of functional monomer or MDP, right? And the amount of solvent. You need to be able to do that in order to achieve a very stable adhesive layer over time. So the idea is that when you apply your adhesive, the water in the adhesive is activating the functional monomer and you're able to bond to the dentin. And you want that adhesive layer to be hydrophilic because dentin has water. So you need to be able to stay there and hang out in a water-filled medium, okay? However, when you light cure it, you want your adhesive layer to be hydrophobic, to repel water.
Sip, sip.
You want your adhesive layer to just be more hydrophobic because by being more hydrophobic, the water that's coming from within the dentin is not going to degrade it. You know what I'm saying? Or it is less prone to that hydrolytic degradation. And I know, it's like, well, but is it really that important? Well, think about that the connecting link between your restoration of the tooth structure is your bonding agent. If you're doing a bonded procedure, if you're going to bond an onlay, if you're going to bond a crown, if you're going to bond even a veneer, if you're bonding to dentin, your link is your adhesive. And if your adhesive is prone to hydrolysis, it's going to fail dramatically faster than the adhesive that is the adhesive layer that is not prone to hydrolysis.
Sip, sip, sip.
And you can make this happen, okay? So you need an adhesive that has low water content, but you also need to know the water content of the adhesive that you use and also determine how long does it take for you to get rid of that water content, to get rid of it. Okay, and you can do it, but you just need to know where the numbers are. And a lot of people, most clinicians, most colleagues don't know the water content of the adhesive that they're using. Again, water is needed. Water is important, but water needs to be removed. Now, I'm going to give you, I'm going to share with you some data that we've gathered over the course of many, many years. Manufacturers understand that when they write the IFUs, the instructions for use, They want to write it in a way that is easy to understand, but also they don't want to make it complicated, cumbersome. They don't want to make things for you to have to do things for too long. In dentistry, we used to think in minutes, and then we went from minutes. We used to think in sometimes hours, and then we went from hours to minutes, and now we're thinking about dentistry in seconds.
Sip, sip.
So one thing we've seen is that if you take an adhesive and you take the IFU and you read the IFU, the instructions for use, and it says, after apply a layer, scrub it, whatever, air dry for 10 seconds. Are those 10 seconds going to be enough time for you to remove all the water in that adhesive? And let me tell you how dentists count. Let's say we're going to count to 10, right? And you have your air syringe. This is how you do it. 1, 3, 7, 10. That's how you count, bro. Tell me I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. That's how we all count. And you know why we count like that? Because we are in a hurry. 1, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's how you count. Oh, I use a stopwatch. No, you don't. You don't. You don't. And because of that, we are under drying the adhesive layer, and we're not providing enough amount of time of drying in order to evaporate all the water and solvent. The solvent, your ethanol content or acetone content, depending on the adhesive that you're using, is going to evaporate pretty quick because it's volatile. Water, on the other hand, is a little bit different now. It's a little bit different now. So, recommendation. If you are using any dental bonding agent, a universal bonding agent, other than All Bond Universal, you need to air dry for at least 30 to 45 seconds.
Sip, 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 sip.
Oh, I follow the manufacturer's instructions. You're not going to remove the water content from that. So the data that we developed, we dried the adhesive, evaporated we dried the adhesive following the instructions. It was 10 seconds, 50 seconds, whatever the case may be. And we got, let's say, 20 megapascals. After, 48 hours or something. I don't remember. But that was the case. When we dried for a minute, we went from 20 megapascals of bond strength all the way to close to 40. So you can optimize the bond strength. But in order to optimize, it's going to take you time. You need to consider that when you place your adhesive layer and when you are, treating it and when you're drying it. So I'm going to give you a few road tips. Number 1 road tip. Know the water content of your adhesive. Ask around. Ask the manufacturer. Ask the guy or the company that sold you the adhesive. What is the water content of All Bond U, for example? It's 2.5%. What is the water content of the 3M product, the Scotch Bond Universal? Around 9.8%. It's a huge difference. Okay? What does that mean? That you probably need to air dry longer if you're using the 3M product in order to remove all the water. And that is very important, right? The second road tip is increasing the air time. The drying air time will provide you with a more hydrophobic adhesive layer. And we did this not only to prove that our stuff requires less drying time, but to prove that by doing this, you improve the bonding capability of any bonding agent, of any universal bonding agent. So, we're like providing a service. Hey, increase the drying time, and you're going to optimize the bond strength of bonding agents that have high water content. You just need to get rid of it. In order to get rid of it, the only way to do it is by increasing the drying time. Road tip number 3, and this is where I'm biased. Just use an adhesive with a low water content and forget about it. Forget about it. You know what I'm saying? Buy your gabagool, your mozzarella, and forget about it. So now we're going to do the beer review. So this guy is called Paraguayan Ale. Paraguayan Ale. I don't think it's necessarily a generic name. I think they're just proud, this company. Say, you know what? This is an ale. It's from Paraguay. We're going to call it Paraguayan Ale. And I'm all for that. All right? What do I think about this beer? I think I could have it again. I don't mind it at all. I like the fact that it's bitter. It is dry. It is, yes, it's a little bit hoppy, more hoppy than I would expect a pale ale to be.
Sip, 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 sip.
And I'm not saying pale ales are not hoppy, but there is a difference between a pale ale and an India pale ale. That's where hoppiness really takes a different, a different form. But this one is quite interesting. Did it match the beer description? It said light-bodied. I don't think it's light-bodied. Is it herbal? I will probably say more, into the flower kind of. It's not, I don't feel tarragon here, but I do feel a little bit of pineapple. I feel that. So is it herbal? I don't know. But there's something fruity here, something interesting, okay? Is it hoppy? A little bit. Is it dry? Yes. So we can say that it matches the description. Now, hear me out. The description based on how I feel it. I've gotten some comments from people saying, well, it doesn't match the description because you're not tasting everything. You have an uneducated palate. That might be true. However, this is Jeremy the Producer's and I and mine podcast. And we do what we're here to do, which is to talk about bonding, to drink beer, and give you our honest opinion. And guess what? That is what it is. It's an opinion, okay? Now, from 1 to 5, what am I going to give this guy? I have 2 scores for this guy. What do I give this beer? I'm going to give this beer a 4.1. I think 4.1 means that, I believe that 4.1 means that if you see this beer, you should try it and you will enjoy it. Now, I'm going to give this beer another score. The fact that it came all the way from Asuncion and made its way to Chicago. It is easier for Jeremy, the producer, and I to go to London than to go to Asuncion, Paraguay. It is easier for us to go to Italy, to go to Europe, than to go to Paraguay. You need to stop in Miami, then stop in Sao Paulo, and then end up in Asuncion. It will take us at least 15 hours to get there, at least more than that. And the fact that this guy made it all the way to Chicago, that's awesome. That's crazy. It is crazy. I'm going to give it a 5 because of that. Because it traveled all the way to make it here. And the guy that gave it to me said, here, this is for your Bonding and Beer podcast. Who does that? Who does that? Somebody who's really a believer in what we do, okay? Who's really a believer in what we do. Love it. So we are on our Q&A section. You can send your questions to bondingandbeer@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram at bondingandbeer, on YouTube, all that fun stuff. Okay, we have a landing page. You can ask your questions in many, many different ways. So this question is from our last episode, from Dr. Daniela Costa. However, that question is more relevant now than it was for our last episode. The question from Dr. Daniela Costa is, what can I do as a clinician when it comes the hydrophilic nature and semi-permeable membrane of the adhesive, of the universal bonding agents, when you're working with them. So if you remove all the water, or the most amount of water possible, you are going to increase the possibility of your adhesive being resistant to the hydrolytic degradation and the hydrolysis from, the water coming in from the dentin. So you need to be careful and aware of the water content of your universal bonding agent, and you need to make sure that you remove all the water. How do you do that? By increasing the drying time, or by using something that has low water content, such as All Bond Universal, that only has 2.5% of water in its formula. Okay, this is question number 2. This is from Dr. Alex Norris. Will saliva have an effect on water content?
Sip, sip, sip.
That's an interesting question. And I'm going to answer that question with a question. Why is saliva touching your preparations when you place your bonding agent? Like, if you place your bonding agent and saliva goes in there, we got a bigger problem than water content. You need to be careful. You know, I'm not going to say here that you need to work every time under rubber dam isolation, but you got to have isolation. You got isolite, you got cotton rolls, you got rubber dam. Pick and choose, my guy. If saliva lands on uncured adhesive, you got problems. If saliva lands on polymerized adhesive, you can just rinse it away and keep working. You don't need to place another layer of adhesive. You're good. But if saliva mixes with uncured adhesive, that's on you. Will that have an effect? Yeah. It will screw up your bonding process. So just be wary of that. You got to be careful, okay? Dr. Norris, I'm just saying. And the question number 3 is from Dr. Arthur Stahl. When you aren't working, traveling, or talking dental, what do you like to do on your free time? Drink beer, my guy. Drink beer. Be a semi-alcoholic member of society. And make sure my wife is mildly happy with the stuff that I do around the house. Okay, but I do drink beer. And I review it for my very own purposes. Just to make sure that I keep track. But for sure, drink beer. And now that I have a little food trailer, I'm going to have a little side hustle. I'm going to be making smash burgers all over the state of Illinois. Okay? So there is your answer, Dr. Stahl. Now, this about wraps up this episode of Bonding and Beer. Be sure to like, to comment, to subscribe, and to follow. Okay? Next time, we're going to be talking about MDP, which is a functional monomer that is extremely popular in the formulation of universal bonding agents. You see, we're doing a little series about universal bonding agents. Okay? So make sure that you are ready for that MDP episode. You can send us your questions ahead of time so we got them ready. We will definitely answer them as they come and put it in the episode. Thank you for tuning in to Bonding and Beer. I'm Rolando Nunez, your host. There is Jeremy, the producer, our producer, and I'll see you in the next episode. Let's freaking go, my guy. Let's freaking go. Oh, cool. I like that.